At a standing ovation. I felt like Hollywood is just spineless, en masse.
He said that on live television. Jim Carrey, one of the biggest names in Hollywood. And he wasn't talking about the slap. He was talking about the system. Hollywood has become a breeding ground for some seriously dark stuff. Child pedophilia, and prostitution. That's Keanu Reeves, not whispering, not hiding behind metaphor, naming it by category.
He's very kind and he's very generous, and it speaks to his beautiful heart, and the man is a creative genius.
Two men, both insiders, both watching the same machine. And now, one of them just broke his silence in a way that has the other one allegedly breaking down behind closed doors. Because when Jim Carrey exposed Hollywood's Epstein connections, Keanu Reeves didn't distance himself. He didn't stay silent. According to multiple sources, he had an emotional reaction so intense that people close to him say he's never been the same since. This is that story. Let's rewind to the moment everything started to crack open publicly. March 27, 2022, the Oscars. Will Smith walks on stage and slaps Chris Rock in front of the entire world. The room goes silent. Then, minutes later, Hollywood gives Will Smith a standing ovation, and Jim Carrey, watching from home, sees something the rest of us missed.
At a standing ovation. I felt like Hollywood is just spineless, en masse. And it really felt like, oh, this is a really clear indication that we're not the cool club anymore.
Most people thought Jim was overreacting. A slap, a standing ovation, what's the big deal? But Jim wasn't talking about violence. He was talking about the pattern. The same industry that gave standing ovations to Roman Polanski. The same industry that protected Harvey Weinstein for decades. The same industry that whispered about Epstein's island while publicly pretending none of it was real. Jim saw the machine protecting its own, again, and that's when he stopped playing along.
Telling the kids, don't come to Hollywood. I'm serious.
That's not a joke. That's a warning from a man who made hundreds of millions of dollars in that exact system. A man who could have stayed quiet, stayed comfortable, stayed protected, but he didn't. Instead, Jim started dropping breadcrumbs carefully, deliberately, in ways that sounded like comedy, but were actually testimony.
Media, man, it is one hell of an entity. It really can have you thinking that the bad people are good and the good people are.
Think about what he's actually saying. He's telling you the entire machinery of Hollywood is designed to flip reality, to make you worship the wrong people, to keep you from seeing what's really happening. And who does that machinery protect most fiercely? The billionaire moguls, the talk show queens, the people who smile the best. Jim didn't name them directly. Not yet, but he told you exactly where to look. Now, here's what makes this story so much bigger than just Jim Carrey having a bad day after the Oscars. While Jim was issuing warnings in 2022, Keanu Reeves had been doing the exact same thing for years. Decades, actually, except Keanu's warnings were even more specific, even more direct. Hollywood has become a breeding ground for some seriously dark stuff. Child pedophilia, and prostitution. He said that out loud, in a room full of people, not in a private conversation, not off the record, on the record, documented, preserved. Pedophilia, prostitution, and when you cross-reference those three categories with what we now know, not speculation, but court-verified, documented fact about Jeffrey Epstein's operation, each one maps directly. Epstein's network transported minors across state and international lines for exploitation. That's what Ghislaine Maxwell was convicted of, pedophilia. Multiple survivors testified that victims were as young as 14, prostitution. Epstein's operation involved the exchange of money, favors, career advancement, all structured around exploitation. Keanu named all three, specifically, publicly,
creepy. It's just such a fetishistic event.
Fetishistic. That is an extraordinarily specific word choice. He's not saying uncomfortable, he's not saying weird, he's saying fetishistic, as in the objectification and consumption of people for gratification. He used that word to describe a Hollywood public event. Now think about what survivor testimony describes: being displayed, being paraded, being presented to men at parties and dinners as objects of access rather than human beings. Keanu wasn't expressing personal discomfort. He was naming a cultural dynamic he had been watching for decades. And here's the part that makes this rumor about his breakdown make perfect sense. Keanu has been carrying this knowledge alone for 40 years. Then, in 2024, the Department of Justice dumps hundreds of pages of Epstein documents, guest lists, emails, FBI tips, names, and suddenly, Jim's warnings don't sound crazy anymore. Naomi Campbell's name appears over 200 times in the files. Blake Lively's name shows up on invitation lists to Epstein events after his 2008 conviction. Elon Musk has emails planning visits to Epstein's island. Even Tom Hanks's name is mentioned in an FBI tip connected to Epstein's network. The files don't just confirm that Epstein had powerful friends, they show the entire ecosystem he operated in. The parties, the guest lists, the celebrity names orbiting the same circles. And Jim Carrey, who had been warning people for years, suddenly looks less like a paranoid comedian and more like a whistleblower.
And shut up!
I know he's your friend, but I don't care.
Ricky Gervais said that while staring directly at a room full of people whose names would later show up in those files. But here's what nobody is connecting. When those files came out, when Jim's warnings were suddenly validated by government documents, something happened to Keanu Reeves. According to multiple sources close to both actors, when Jim Carrey began publicly calling out Hollywood's spineless protection of predators, Keanu Reeves had an intense emotional reaction. Not anger, not fear, relief mixed with grief. Because for 40 years, Keanu had been watching the same thing Jim was describing. He had been dropping hints. He had been warning people. He had been living a completely different life than everyone around him specifically, because he refused to be part of the machine, but he did it quietly, carefully, alone. And then Jim Carrey, one of the only other people in Hollywood with the credibility and the courage to speak up, confirmed everything Keanu had been seeing.
He's very kind and he's very generous, and it speaks to his beautiful heart. And the man is a creative genius, right? He's a genius.
Listen to the way Keanu talks about Jim. That's not a casual compliment. That's a man defending someone he knows is telling the truth, because Keanu understands exactly what Jim is risking by speaking up. He knows the blacklist. He knows the smear campaigns. He knows how the industry tries to isolate you, make you look unstable, turn your warnings into punchlines. And according to insider rumors, Keanu allegedly sent private messages to industry power players, warning them to leave Jim alone. The message was clear. Jim Carrey is not crazy. He's speaking the truth. I know because I've seen it too. And trying to silence him would be a mistake. Whether those rumors are fully accurate or not, the message is undeniable. Keanu is using his credibility, his status as the most beloved actor in Hollywood, to protect Jim Carrey, and that protection comes at a cost. Sources say Keanu has been visibly shaken in recent months, that he's pulled back even further from public life, that the weight of knowing what he knows, combined with watching Jim take the heat for saying it out loud, has taken a toll. This is a man who lost his best friend, River Phoenix, to the machinery of Hollywood exploitation. This is a man who has spent 40 years refusing to participate in the culture of consumption. Bad news coming their way. He said that in a congregation setting. He said it to people embedded in the same industry he was warning about. Here's what nobody in the industry wants to admit. Jim Carrey and Keanu Reeves standing together is the most dangerous thing that could happen to Hollywood's power structure, because the Epstein files already confirmed what they've been saying.
It is the secret symbol of the Illuminati, and you're a part of it.
Jim said that on national television. He was mocking the hand signals, the secret language of elite circles, and people laughed. But underneath that performance, Jim was making a statement. He was saying, the people who entertain you are controlled, the system is rigged, and I'm done pretending. And Keanu, watching all of this unfold, allegedly broke down because he finally wasn't alone. For the first time in 40 years, someone else was saying it. Someone else was willing to risk everything. Someone else understood. So here's where we are. Jim Carrey exposed Hollywood's Epstein connections, not with a lawsuit, not with a press conference, but with years of carefully coded warnings that were suddenly validated by government documents. Keanu Reeves, who had been issuing his own warnings for decades, allegedly had an emotional breakdown when Jim's exposure confirmed everything he'd been carrying alone. And now, the two of them are standing together, one loud, one quiet, both untouchable in different ways, and every name connected to Jeffrey Epstein, every name on those flight logs, every name in those sealed documents, every name that expensive lawyers are fighting to keep out of courtrooms should understand something very clearly. The alliance between a loud truth teller and a quiet truth keeper is the most dangerous thing possible in an industry built on silence. Because Keanu's breakdown wasn't weakness. It was the moment he realized he didn't have to carry this alone anymore. And when two men who have been inside the machine for a combined 70 years start validating each other's warnings, the machine doesn't have a defense. It just has exposure. Free range, unlimited movement, unlimited access, unlimited impunity. That's what Keanu has been describing. That's what Jim confirmed. That's what the Epstein files proved. And that's what's coming to an end. The question isn't whether Jim and Keanu know something. They do. The question is, how many more names are in those files? How many more celebrities are going to show up in the next release? And how long can the industry keep the machine running now that we can all see the gears? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Who do you think is most terrified of what Jim and Keanu know?